Her name is Aurene.
A scion of Glint chose you as her champion.
Now where could she be?
You set about preparing her
Any progress with Aurene?
to someday face the Elder Dragons together
Give it all you've got!
and restore balance to the world.
Do you feel the weight of those words grow heavier with every passing moment?
Aurene has the potential to not only destroy Kralkatorrik, but also replace it.
I hope you fare better, my sister. I hope you feel full of purpose.
Aurene's had a premonition, a vision of the future, of multiple futures.
Do not let them, or yourself, forget what you are.
How about it, Aurene? Are we ready?
Hey guys, and welcome back for another video. So, as you just saw, we did get a new trailer for The Living World Season 4, Episode 4. As you know, if you've been following the game, or if you saw my earlier video on Sun's Refuge, this is the episode where that comes into the game, and unfortunately they don't really show it off very much or explain it any more than they have in this trailer. Additionally, this does appear to be a pretty heavily Aurene-centric episode, and I think that kind of makes sense given where we left off. We start off with the song entitled Aurene, and we go all the way back to her egg hatching and move forward from there. I won't be covering a ton of the older stuff because I feel like you should probably just experience that in-game unless I feel like it somehow ties into anything new coming out. So our first stop in the trailer is going to be about 30 seconds in, and I'll just be cycling between a couple of the frames. This is Sun's Refuge. I won't be covering this a ton because, again, the trailer really doesn't cover it all that much, and I talked about it kind of a lot in a video based all around it. What we can see here, though, is that the spider webs that kind of show up at the beginning slowly disappear. This place starts out relatively dark, although that could just be a nighttime kind of thing. I'm not entirely sure, but it does brighten up with both torches and this kind of brazier thing that's in the center of the room. Now, I don't know if that's a Mystic Forge or not, because this could be some kind of player housing or just a convenience of bothering to do this at all, but yeah, at the very least we get a cool fiery light source. Again, as things progress, you can see NPCs showing up, you could see some banners are hung. I don't know if this is going to have some sort of connection to your guild, or if these are just going to be, say, Sunspear banners or something like that. And lastly, for this section, I did not realize that Aurene was going to be just straight up in this instance. I don't think that means that we'll necessarily be upgrading Aurene, but they could have this tied in somehow, I suppose. Maybe a more interesting dwelling for Aurene to live in. Just after that, we do get a couple of quick shots of what look to be just different enemies. The first of which is a Wyvern, and I'm not sure if this is in reference to something in Heart of Thorns, as the background looks very Heart of Thorns. It may have even been a world boss type monster that I fought and just don't recognize outright. Just after that, we do see what looks to be Scruffy, only very heavily influenced by the Inquest, because rather than blue positive colors, it's red bad colors. It does appear to be some kind of enemy because we have an AoE circle on the ground. I'm not sure if this is a part of Sun's Refuge, perhaps some kind of training golem like the raid training golem that you could just easily use at your home instance, or if this is somehow part of the story. After that, we do get a quick glimpse of what looks like the new map. It's not really a ton to look at here. You can see that we have some more desert, and we are definitely headed towards branded country. Speaking of, just after that, we do get this cool shot of a couple of branded awakened enemies, and I've heard a few people say this, but there is sort of a weird snowy effect going on here. I'm not sure if that's just a particle effect that I've never noticed tied with the branding, but yeah, it definitely looks wintry, and that's weird because we're in a desert. A little further into the trailer, we do see Vlast, and this is a character from Path of Fire, as well as just Guild Wars 2 lore, I suppose. But this is Oryn's brother, who is, spoiler warning, no longer with us due to the events of Path of Fire. While the trailer does offer up some pretty good clips of Vlast speaking, these are all clips from Path of Fire and some of the kind of side stuff you could do to get a little bit more on Vlast. I do personally think it would be awesome if we could get some sort of playable instance through his eyes, or maybe through other characters' eyes who were around when Vlast was still kind of doing his thing. Also, as somebody who's been kind of playing back through the living world more recently, I can tell you that that's definitely Glint's lair in the background, so I don't know if this is sort of the origin story of Oryn in some way. It seems to mostly be focusing on some sort of new decision she needs to make as far as how she wants to conduct herself in the world. But who knows, we might get a little bit more lore on all of that. The next couple of shots in the trailer are mostly of Oryn, some very close, some just her flying around, and you do get some little nuggets of the new map, I'm guessing, in the background, but nothing too exciting to talk about. Actually, looking back through these clips of Oryn now, she definitely looks more in-game, if that makes sense. Typically when I see Oryn, she's just flying around in the distance, she's not really up close. This is like a whole spectrum of Oryn kind of emoting and being expressive, and she has very different movements than how I typically remember her. I don't know if this is because, I mean, she's gonna be a mount, guys. Not like an actual mount, but at least a storyline mount by the end of the season. I'm calling it now. I called it earlier, but I'm gonna say it again. She's definitely becoming a mount by the end of this season. Just after that, we do see Blish, and he actually gives us a bit of dialogue saying that Oryn is having a premonition of multiple futures. We do get a couple of quick shots of some of the surrounding area. Again, I think these are some more shots of the new map. We see some more branded creatures. And for the second chunk of this, we actually see things through this sepia filter. If you guys aren't familiar, sometimes ArenaNet, when they want to do a past event, they'll sometimes put it in this sepia filter. If anybody's played through the personal story and they've gone to Old Lion's Arch, then you've probably seen this. Quick sidebar, Old Lion's Arch, far superior to Disneyland New Lion's Arch. Okay, I said it, and we can move on. Right after this, we do see kind of the lineup for the characters that will be in this living world. It looks like we have Goric and Blish, we have Ritlock, Timey, and Bram. No Marjorie or Casimir, at least not shown in the trailer anywhere that I noticed. I'm not entirely upset about this though, because again, I've been playing through the living world again, and I cannot stand Marjorie and Casimir bickering all the time. So, at least until that's all resolved, I can go without them, we'll say. It does appear that our companions are in Sun's Refuge again, and the following clip also shows Oryn in a big building. I'm thinking this is Sun's Refuge, but I guess it could be just another part of the map. In the background here, you can see several NPCs, and one of them is awakened, so I'm really hoping that we're going to pick up on this Palawa Joko storyline. Spoilers again, we dealt with Palawa Joko, or rather Oryn did, in the last living world, and so now there's sort of going to be this power vacuum with the awakened. They obviously don't just disappear now that Palawa Joko is dead. So what becomes of them? Do they just live their lives normally and eternally? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. So for the rest of the trailer, we just hear everybody calling out to Oryn all at once, further solidifying that she has a lot on her plate and she's trying to figure out who she is and how she wants to kind of be as an adult, I guess? It's hard to say exactly where she is in the development cycle of a dragon, but she has come quite a long way in almost no time. She was an egg not that long ago. I sound like her dad, right? But she was an egg not that long ago, and now she's all grown up and she's trying to lead her own life. So who knows how developed she is. I'm just saying it seems like they're trying to give her decisions. In some of the earlier Living World, you try to shape her decisions, but it was never really set in stone that she was going to turn out how we wanted. Now, ultimately, do I think she's going to turn out to be a positive influence on Tyria? Yeah, I do. I think that somehow she's going to be the key to kind of doing away with the dragon portion of Guild Wars 2's storytelling, but I'm not entirely sold that they won't just throw us a wild card, make her some crazy dragon boss that we'll have to slay our own kin, and it'll be a whole thing. I don't know. Outside of that, though, we are left at the very end of the trailer with this big purple tornado, and then the trailer ends. Now, I would say that this is probably tied to a meta event, but I guess it could be some kind of story event as well. I know that we are getting closer and closer to Kraukatorrik at this point. We're dealing with Aurene deciding how she wants to handle Kraukatorrik, so it makes sense that there's a lot of branded magic for that matter. I'll end this video talking a little bit about the still we got. First and foremost, let me just say that I prefer the way they've been doing trailers, probably the last 2 releases, more than the way they've kind of just summarized all the new things coming in at the end. I mean, if you look at this, you can just see everything new that's coming in, which is great. It's all in one place. There's no confusion, I suppose, but it's kind of more epic when you say new mastery and then you say what the new mastery is, or you show it being used. You say new mount and then there's a new mount. Regardless of my feelings on how they handled it, they do say that the new map is Jahai Bluffs, so if you're a Guild Wars 1 fan, then you should know roundabouts where that is. There's a new mastery, Bond of Vigor. There's actually an article that further explains this. It's just going to be a skill like the heal skill we got on our mounts, only it's going to help us restore vigor. It looks like we're getting a new raid, which is great because it's been almost a year since the last one came out. I know that the raiding community has been pretty bored and or upset with ArenaNet, and they're finally getting that. Also, with that article, they confirmed that this is actually taking place inside the Mystic Forge. How cool is that for a place to set a raid? So I think that'll be very interesting. Maybe you get free legendaries when you beat it, who knows? Additionally, we do get a new armor set. We get Sun's Refuge. The new armor set, the new upgradable armor set rather, is going to be tied to Sun's Refuge, and they re-announced it here, which is great, but we still don't really know what's going on with that. I did a little bit of speculation in my previous video on Sun's Refuge, so if you're curious about my thoughts on that, feel free to watch that video. And lastly, we are getting a new legendary that I will not even try to pronounce. However, in that article, they did have a single picture that I will show here for you guys who are maybe interested in the newest legendary coming out. I think, yeah, this is a scepter, so that'll be pretty cool for any scepter players out there who just really wanted something new to show off. As one last final note, I do want to talk about the geography of the area that we'll be headed. If you compare the Guild Wars 1 map to our current Guild Wars 2 map and you look for Jahai Bluffs, you'll see that that's directly between the domain of Abbey and the domain of Korna. So I'm not entirely sure, but this little graphic I've made up here should kind of show you what I'm thinking the size of this map is going to be, which would be really exciting. I do hope that they don't domain of Abbey Desolation this map, and by that I mean I hope it fits between the 2 existing maps and doesn't just sort of offset from literally every other map for no reason. It drives me crazy, I can't handle it. But if I did have to make any further speculation on that, it would be that we'll be closer to the domain of Korna because that's closer to the branded area, and we have plenty of evidence of the brand in pretty much all of this trailer footage. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for me. That's it for the trailer. If you guys have any thoughts on what might be coming up next Tuesday, please let me know. Also, if you're watching this and you haven't been playing The Living World, make sure you log in before next Tuesday or you'll miss out on Long Live the Lich. Well, at least for free. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.